Saugatuck City Council meeting for Monday, January 22nd. If you could all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the clerk could please call the roll.
Anderson. Here. Baldwin.
Here.
Dean's excused. Gardner.
Here.
Muncy.
Here.
Stanton.
Here.
White.
Here.
You have a quorum.
And if I could have a motion to excuse Council Member Dean, he had some training for ski patrol tonight. So if I could have a motion to excuse Council Member Dean.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Motion to excuse Councilmember Dean from this evening's meeting.
A second.
Okay, all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, thank you for that. As far as mayor's comments tonight, if you haven't had an opportunity to watch the Planning Commission meeting, if you weren't able to attend, if you could watch it online, I highly recommend it. It was really an informational meeting. They had a couple of members from their Planning Commission from Charlevoix and East Bay Township. And really some really good insight from them as far as what they've done in their communities. Some of them, Charlevoix in particular, went quite a ways back when it came to short-term rentals and some of the, like having caps there and their decision to, have caps in their area and what that looked like for them, as well as for East Bay Township. A different situation there, but still they looked at caps there. And it was just really great to hear from them and just talked about, some mistakes they made and some things that they would do slightly differently. I just recommend everybody, take a moment to watch that. It's a couple hours long, but there's, if you're doing it while you're doing other things at home, it makes it a lot easier. But I appreciated that insight, and I thought it was really good information. As far as city manager's comments.
Madam Mayor, my report is later on in the agenda.
Okay.
Just one item of note. So you do have a public hearing in front of you this evening, which is part of the 5-year Parks and Recreation Plan. There's an error in the notice at the top of your agenda. It says Township Board.
Mhm.
So as part of your agenda changes, you may just want to correct that.
Okay.
That's all.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes. So as far as agenda changes, I would like to change the wording then on the Township Board. As you'll see in the top, it should say Saugatuck City Council meeting. If we could change that. And do we have to vote on that?
Make all your agenda changes and.
Okay. And then the other one was to add a guest speaker for this evening, County Commissioner Dean Kapinga. So if I could have a motion to make those changes.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Move to change the verbiage in the posted public hearing from Township Board to Saugatuck City Council, and motion to include Dean Kapinga as our guest speaker.
Do I have a second?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So at this time, if we could have County Commissioner Dean Kapinga come up. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And also just thank you for attending. I had a chance to speak several weeks ago just for the whole issue of officers in school. And Saugatuck's one of the only schools that doesn't have an officer in the school. And it was fun for me to be able to speak at it because I wasn't an expert within it. I was an officer, but I called all the friends I knew as far as what's going on in the schools. Called some principals, called some teachers, called some students, and said, what is it like having an officer there? How does it help you? Teachers, what does it mean to have an officer that's there? So I was able to give a report on that. You understand that group speaking at the school tonight. Yeah. So anyway, that was special to speak. Just some things that are going on with myself. Just know that, like today I was in Lansing and I was working with all other counties in the state of Michigan, looking at health issues. So we looked at short-term rentals. We looked at affordable housing. We had a speaker that came in, but maybe looking at health needs. But just to give you some reports of some of the committees I'm on, I had 911 Policy Board. The Sheriff's Department took in 49,180 calls per service this year. 49,000 calls, just amazing. Fire departments took in 8,656 fire calls. So I look at that and just know that with dispatch. So we're looking at the dispatch of it. How do we dispatch all the people to alarms, to calls? 911 calls, how do we fund that? You know, how do we make sure all the radio systems work? I'm on that committee to make sure that's fiscally sound and that we're doing a good job within it, especially with the staff that we have. I had the Commission of Aging. I brought that up to you many times. Make sure that you're talking to your constituents. We do all these different services, adult daycare. You know, people come into the home of a senior. I've had at least 2 families approach me and say, this is tremendous for my mom and dad. I mean, we don't have the family structure to be able to get out here, but they have adult daycare. They'll come in and vacuum your house. They'll give bathing to that parent. We have in-home support. We have transportation. I mean, I don't have a car to get to the pharmacy. Can you take me? You know, we have that. Then we have the emergency pens, and just know that the millage dollars take care of that. So if you have people that you know in the community, make sure you push them our way to do that. Also, I've talked to you about our water study work group. I've talked to Eagle. We're one of the only counties in the state of Michigan that's actually hired an engineer, Williams and Works, to look at the protection strategy of water. You know, so how do we keep our aquifer pure? What do we do? We have about 270 sites that are leaking oil before they get in the aquifer. And so this group's gonna speak on April 23. We're gonna ask many of you to come to this meeting. I think we're asking like 2 people from every county, but it's from 4 to 7. And they're gonna talk about the strategy of how do you keep that aquifer pure? How do you determine how much water is in it? When can you not draw that much out of it? And what do we do to protect it? So just very proud of that part of it. Also know that I think some of you had maybe met our health officer, Angelique. She's leaving. She found her dream job and she's been with us 14 years. She was tremendous. So I'm in the process. I think I've had 5 interviews in the last week of people from around the country. I'm just looking at that position and we're looking at filling that. But thanks for letting me speak. Have a
We're-
great meeting.
Yeah, we really appreciate you always coming. Go ahead.
Just wondering, are we the only school district in Allegan, you said, without police?
You are.
The only out of all of the Allegan schools here? Okay.
You are. And just know that with the people I talked to, there was from a student going, I was sort of scared of a police officer. To have someone that I can actually talk to that knows that will help me in any way that he can. To have a teachers just tell me again and again saying, there's so many incidents of a student we don't know what to do with them. I can finally call somebody that knows what to do. And then they had the question of if the emergency does happen with an intruder or something like that, we know we have the comfort of knowing there's somebody there that's trained to do it, to take care of it.
Mhm.
So a lot of positive things.
In the Commission on Aging, you were talking about all these great, benefits available to Allegan County residents. What do you guys have a media team or somebody that tries to get that word out, other than,
We feel that it wasn't getting out enough. So this next year, we spent $60,000 hiring a media crew out of Kalamazoo. And they're doing everything from, I think we're on into magazines where we did billboards on the major highways. We had television ads that have gone out and we knew that that was an issue.
Okay.
So something don't know, you're going, you're kidding me. We have that to offer our seniors.
Right.
And we're trying to do that, a better job of it.
Okay,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
asking.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean.
Thank you.
All right. Now we're on to public comments on agenda items only. If there's anyone in the room who would like to speak, go ahead, Dan.
Dan Fox, City of Saugatuck. This in regard to item 15D on your agenda in the Parks and Recreation 5-year plan. I expect many of us have heard the expression gaming the system. If you haven't, I'll use the internet definition. Shows synonyms such as rigging, abusing, cheating, milking, playing, working, breaking the system, gaming, or bending the rules, and so forth. I think we probably, at least at this level, agree that there's really no place for this sort of bending the rules, if you will, in transparent local government. Unfortunately, we have exactly that, or at least a piece of it, in the 5-year Parks and Rec plan. How so? Furrowed brow. I'm going to tell you how so. Page 108 in your packet, you'll see what's referred to as, quote, the old airport. It's listed not as a city asset, which should be evaluated by the city council and citizens in general for its best use, but rather as a, quote, natural resource area. in that Parks and Rec plan. What's more, you'll see the plan writer listed, quote, opportunities for that property. And those opportunities include only uses for the property as some sort of park. No mention of assessing the property's financial value, no mention of any alternate use, no mention of transferring this asset to the township. Privately, I was informed that the township is very interested in that asset. An aside, only use as some sort of city park. That, folks, is gaming the system. The airport property has never been an airport. It's never been a park. It's located well outside the city, fully in the township's jurisdiction. Most of Saugatuck citizens have no idea where it's at. City Council's job here is to openly assess the future of this asset, this important asset. Don't game the system, no matter how firmly you believe that the course of action you prefer is the best course of action. Don't game the system with only one option without evaluating all of them. That's not good government. It's the opposite of transparency. And most of all, it is highly disrespectful to the city's citizens and taxpayers. Thank you.
All right, anybody else in the audience? Okay, anybody online wish to speak on agenda items only? No hands raised. All right, so we will move on to consent agenda, regular city council meeting minutes. If I could have a motion to approve those from January 8th.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
motion to approve regular city council meeting minutes from January 8th, 2024.
do I have a second?
Second.
All right, and this is a roll call vote.
Any discussion?
Any discussion or any questions in regards to those meeting minutes? Any? Okay,
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin,
Yes.
Dean, Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
Stanton,
yes.
White.
Yes.
All right, we're on to staff reports. City manager?
Yep, thank you, Madam Mayor. My report is on page 10. Happy to answer any questions that you or the council may have.
Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, thank you. I love reading about the fact that we've now kind of pivoted to move towards City Hall interior renovations, excuse me. Do you have a timeline or any kind of a general sense of when this might kind of play itself out in terms of when we'll see something here at council, when, more importantly, when staff will start to see some results from this?
The answer is no. What I would hope to see is maybe 6 months for a design, working with council. And then hopefully another year to execute the
Okay, so
the plan.
if things go according to plan, something coming back in about 6 months, then about a year from now, having that executed. So, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Anybody else have any questions or comments for the city manager? All right, moving on to the treasurer's report. Is Peter available?
He's online.
Okay, do you guys have any questions about Peter's report? All right, moving on to planning and zoning. The report is included. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Ryan? Okay, moving on to Department of Public Works. Scott?
Hi, good evening. Yeah, we've had a pretty mild winter so far, but I did want to just kind of highlight the Public Works crew. We've been working pretty hard for the past couple of weeks. We had high hopes of having a weekend this past weekend, and they were abruptly cut short due to the snow that came in. So we've been hard at it. We're really looking forward to possibly this Saturday having a day off, but just want to highlight the hard work that the crew has been really putting in. We've been logging quite a few hours. So another aspect, I just wanted to say, speaking of snow plowing, one, just thank you for Helen Baldwin and Holly Anderson for doing the ride along. I think we had a lot of fun. I certainly enjoyed having you. Helen, I've gotten to know you quite well over the past year, especially with the PPW committee, being the chair of that committee. But Holly, having the opportunity to get to know you a little bit more and get an understanding of what you're all about was really insightful. But also too, the early hours. I mean, town is a very different world at that time of day, and it's very beautiful. I think, but also I think it speaks volumes to the kind of dedication that there is in this room right now, in terms of public service, because to wake up 3 in the morning, 4:30, whatever time you woke up in the morning, absolutely not getting paid for it, but just doing it out of passion and bringing the level of enthusiasm that you did. A lot of times we start very early in the crew, sometimes a little sluggish, maybe coffee hasn't kicked in quite yet, but if everyone showed up to work with boots on the ground running the way that you both did, we'd be better off for it. So just to thank you again. And
Fearing for your life also that wakes you up a little bit as we went down Blue Star High. I will say that. Sorry to interject.
that's all. Thank you very much.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for Scott?
We gave you lots of shouts out on the show and we enjoyed the crew. I ran into you guys all weekend. I was out in that snowstorm on Saturday. I was on the road as well throughout the city that day working for one of my jobs, and I kept running into that plow and they kept keeping up with it. So you guys did a great job. So thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you so much. And all joking aside, I did have the best laugh in the world when she told me the story of you taking out my mailbox. So like,
Yes. Which, to be clear, it was the snow coming off of the
The snow-
plow.
The
Not,
snow took out the box and
and
not
the
the plow.
integrity of my mailbox was not
Lack
great.
thereof and the structural integrity. Yes, yes.
yeah,
but-
that just goes to show there's no special treatment
No,
for
that's
anybody in
right.
this town.
That's right.
I'll take out the mayor's mailbox.
appreciate
you
that.
know.
Do appreciate it. Scott, thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott.
All right. Do we have anyone here from the sheriff's department? Okay. Anyone? John Moxie, is he here? Engineering. Okay. On to boards, commissions, and committees. Fire District Administration Board, Dan?
Again, Dan Fox, the council's representative to the Fire District Board. Just a few things. I didn't know, I thought this in general might be interesting to you. This is a text that I got from Chief Janik Saturday night. If any of you were out and about
Yeah.
and saw the fire in Douglas, it was amazing. I mean, I happened to be, believe it or not, some of you won't. I was on my way to church and I'm headed up that hill and I got all of a sudden I got a fire truck behind me. There's no place, I know Kathy Norris on the thing. Kathy, there's no place to pull off because of where you put the trail over there. So I got the fire truck behind me. I finally get off at St. Peter's Drive. I mean, it looked like a bomb had gone off to the, that site. But anyway, the chief sent me a note after that, talking about it. He said the call came in at 4:30. They left the station, he left the station for home at 8:30 PM that night. It was a kitchen fire that spread throughout the structure. There's a door left open and you watch backdraft. You don't leave the doors open. The air fed the fire, windows blew out on the street side from extreme heat and cold. Hydrant water supply was tampered by being buried in snow, requiring shoveling out to connect at Center and Blue Star Highway. One hydrant on Fremont near the school bus parking was obscured by piles of snow. The gas valve shut off seized and it took 15-minute delay to correct that. There's no method of turning off electrical service inside the house. Cold and fatigue was taking its toll. The good part is the crews saved the structure to the south, which you drive by, you can see the structure to the south charred, damaged, but still standing. So speaking of credit to those who serve the community. Anyway, the report here is for our meeting on the 15th of January. We had a long packet, not unlike yours, because they included the full auditor's report, which was a successful auditor's report. They praised Peter as they have in the past, but then Peter's in the room, so I don't know if I'm just kidding. He earns it. We went over incident calls in detail for the full year, rather than submit those to you and make a packet that's big, even bigger. They are all available on the Fire District website. All you have to do is search Saugatuck Douglas, Saugatuck Township Fire District. You'll get the link to the website. Upper left corner of the website, there's the three little kind of menu bar things. Click on that. There's one for Fire Board. Click on that. all of the meetings, all of the agendas, all of the minutes, all of the videos for like, I think 3 years now. I don't know who's paying to keep all that, but it's all there. So help yourself. I will from time to time reference tidbits of it that seem to be worthy of special mention, but otherwise it's all there. You can get lost there. Let me see here. Dean mentioned the school safety committee, which Fire District Chief Janik also participated in that and has been an advocate, an outspoken advocate on that front for some time. We spoke about a funding approval, and we tabled this till next time. So it'll be third time in a row we've talked about it. But so, thought you'd want to see what that was. Nobody in this room, I'm sure, and nobody on the fire board has ever walked along Blue Star Highway with traffic going 50, 60, and 80. And the fire crews do it, unfortunately, all the time. The number of calls, it was like 200, I think 200 calls over the year that are motor vehicle accidents on the interstate. You may not know that the fire district gets nothing in the way of funding for that coverage from the federal government, from the state of Michigan, from anybody. So that's all on us. All of the fire crew will tell you that the call they dread the most is that call out on the interstate, because people are texting, they're not paying attention. You can go online and watch them until you're sick of watching them. Cars blasted into fire trucks. Kalamazoo fire truck was hit this week or last week. Fortunately, nobody injured, but the trucks got damaged, and then you can't use the truck for what it's for, and da, 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 da. So, but the greatest worry is human life out there. And the first job they have to do when they respond on the highway is to set out the cones to block the lane, whichever lane it is. That's traditionally been done by walking up the line with the cones, and you're walking basically a quarter of a mile because it's a gradual deal or whatever. And at that point, there may be one truck in front of you to help, block or whatever, but that truck is a usable fire truck of one kind or another. So the thought on the chief's part, and I think it has the, generally speaking, the support when we get down to specifics of the fire board, is to acquire the vehicle that's in the photograph or the pictures in front of you. It's called a traffic or a truck mounted TMA truck mounted attenuator that carries that device on its back. That device that you see then unfolds and provides a crash barrier for vehicles and human beings in front of it. So, and in addition, if you look at that photograph on the top truck, you can see it better than on the bottom one. I'm not sure the bottom one even has it. That red square in the middle is actually an area where you put a human being who then can drop the cones off the truck without ever getting off the truck, which gets the cones in there faster and obviously doesn't expose the firefighter to the traffic. So the fire district is seriously studying and looking at getting this. We looked at different alternatives. You should also know it's the truck, the bed of the truck is I think it's 6 to 8 inches of concrete is laid over the bed of that truck, because just because you got the thing on the back doesn't mean, you hit that, the truck's going to go forward if it's not heavy enough. So it's a special deal. They're about, by the time they load in the radios and extra lights and whatnot, that ends up being somewhere in the neighborhood of $205,000 for that truck. $95,000 of that has already been donated to that purpose from the community. So without touching any of our internal funds. So anyway, that continues. We will revisit it again at this next month's meeting. Also, possibly related to that, the fire board did approve the equipment disposal request to sell one of the three existing, what you or I were, as I was always called, was a pumper. We have three of those now. And we're going to, plan is to sell one of those without getting into too much detail or putting things on public meetings that don't need to be on public meetings. We expect that to be a very good number. It's a good, reliable truck. That money would then also conceivably be available for the attenuated. The reason the truck, I think it's 2112. It's the four-wheel drive. You see the parades, the one that's mostly red and white, where most of the rest of them are red. That one was chosen because the other two were made by the same fire equipment manufacturing company in Michigan. And there are a lot of commonalities between the two in terms of the pumps and the rest of it. So the training time is reduced and so forth. So anyway, that's that. And finally, the ambulance study group, which I mentioned last time and probably the time before that, met with a supplier. And we are looking forward to their response, which is supposed to be, will be a plan for a 6-month evaluation trial period, which would begin plus or minus April or May, continue through the summer, so that that trial period would include the period when we go from almost, us in the room as the population of the city to the thousands that show up. And based on that, then to move forward with recommendations, whatever. We have another meeting of the study group this Friday because Kathy North, who's now the mayor of Douglas, who was on our study group, it's like asking too much. So I think it's Fran Ray, who's on the Douglas Council, who will be the third member in that 3-person group. So it is moving forward. It has a high degree of interest and priority within the department. So, and we feel confident we're going to see something constructive. So.
All right. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Dan?
Just
Go
a
ahead.
few. This vehicle here, this is the first time I'm hearing about this, and I think, so of course we all love safety. But I was just wondering, you guys have already gotten 95,000 already in donations for this?
That's correct.
That's great. Congratulations. I mean, that's really awesome. And I think that's a great thing to go towards. Also the fire, thanks for updating us on that fire. It was all going around Facebook.
Correct, 90,000, not 95. If I said 95, I was wrong. 90.
Yeah, I wrote,
85 and 5 are the two.
and that was specifically for this that's awesome. And those are for private people, like residents and folks. That says a lot about our community.
Yeah.
It
One's
really
in the
does.
state and one, the other donation comes from Saugatuck people.
Oh.
Two Saugatuck people.
And thanks for updating us about that fire. Just to be clear, there were no injuries,
No
right?
injuries.
On either side.
No,
Yeah.
no
good.
firefighter injuries either.
Or, yeah, good. Very good here. Thank you.
I would think it's another reminder that people need to be shoveling out those fire hydrants. I mean, it just sounded like that was some of the problems that the firefighters were facing.
That's one. And it was a kitchen fire.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And, we see the stats for where the fires happen by area of the house and all the rest of that. And you hear kitchen fire and I go, I've never had a kitchen fire I've never seen a kitchen fire in my life.
Yeah.
I've seen a fire on get out of whack on a Weber grill or something like in a kitchen or whatever.
Mhm.
So, but who knows? I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn whether somebody took their eyes off something they shouldn't have, or who knows?
And it is a small unit too.
And it's a small unit, but
This
boy, I'll
house is
tell you,
small
it
building.
made a lot of smoke. I mean,
Yeah.
Blue Star was closed both
Huh.
directions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Yeah, remind about the fire hydrants too, because that's something I don't think people remember, is that the fire hydrants have to be shoveled out. And I think that's a personal property owner responsibility, correct?
I believe,
Yeah. Is that
even though they're on the city right away.
right? So,
I think it's got. We do it.
oh, you do it? Okay.
Yeah.
Madam
Yeah, I
Mayor,
just-
for the record,
That's a good point.
Mr. Herbert said that
we do shovel hydrants in the city limits, but this issue that they're talking about right now was in
In
Douglas.
Douglas, yeah,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, we put it, I mean, it's one of the flashing signs at the fire district, shovel out the
Sure.
hydrants 3 feet.
Okay,
Thank
all
you.
right. Well, Dan, thank you so much. Moving on to the Interurban Board, Gregory.
A couple things. We have extended our hours, so we're excited to, we were going until 7 p.m. After Memorial Day to Labor Day. We'll, starting in March 1st, we'll be open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, then 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Sunday as well. So we're open later on Sundays. And then also during the summer, from Memorial Day through Labor Day, we used to just start this like in July and run it through the summer. But this year, from Memorial Day to Labor Day, on weekends, we'll be open same hours as I said, but on Fridays, we'll be open till 11 p.m. rather than 7, and then rather than 9, like we were. And Saturdays will be 9 a.m. till 11 p.m. So we'll be open later from Memorial Day to Labor Day this year. So we're excited to extend those hours. We might kind of tweak them a little bit more and add some more hours. So that committee continues to see if we can add more hours. Also, announcement is that Phyllis Ife, our wonderful director, worked with Interurban for, I believe, 17 years altogether. She served as our admin and our director for 10 years. She is retiring. She's excited to spend time with her. Yes, she has 8 grandchildren, and so she's retiring from the board. And I was on the committee to select a new hiree as we were going to start that process. However, I have stepped down from that, recluded myself from that due to conflict of interest because I will be applying for that job myself.
Oh,
And after talking to my colleagues and friends, and so I'll be applying for that, and but will remain on board, looking for the perfect fit. And so whether it be me or someone else, we're looking for the perfect fit for Interurban. So
great.
Yep.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments for Gregory?
Just one, Mayor. We had a friend that came through town last weekend from Chicago. She's on her way back to Chicago, and the Interurban showed up at her house or something. And she says, "What is that?" And explained what it was. She said, "How much is that?" And she said, "We said $1." She goes, $1? And we said, "It comes to your door and drops you off, within a certain service area." This service is something that not a lot of communities have. And this is someone from Chicago with tons of public transportation around, was impressed by what was available in our small community. So cannot be emphasized enough how important this is and has been for this community for an extended period. So I just appreciate it. And now we have a Chicago fan too.
Well, thank you. And it's the community that supports Interurban because of our millage and because of the taxes. Of course, we get some federal as well with our grants that we write every year. But it's because of the community as well. Actually, each ride costs about $2.68. So for some folks, in fact, for folks that are, of age or disabled, they only ride for 50 cents. So it's a great value, and our community supports it like they did with our last millage.
All right. Thank you, Gregory. Appreciate it. On to Cal Lake Sewer and Water Authority. Barry is in the building. Hi, Barry. Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, good to be here. So we had 2 meetings at the Cal Lake Board this month, our regular meeting of January 15th. And then we had a meeting today, and it was all really budget related. So on the 15th, we pretty much just went through wages and expenses, kind of getting prepared so that Daryl could give us a budget to vote on today, which we did. We sent the packet to Ryan today, which has a nice write-up that I'm not going to read this whole page to you, but if you want to know why the rates are going up, it's all explained here. Okay. And it's what you can imagine. It's the costs have gone up. We approved wage increases with the CPI, so our people are getting about 3% raise. So just kind of tidying up the house, getting the budget done, and we had a public hearing today for the public or for the budget. And we closed that and then we adopted a budget and it looks like we're running about a budget of 3,034,000 with revenue of 3,057,000. So we're, if everything goes according to budget, we're gonna be okay. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions for Barry?
I have a question. It's probably more for city manager. I don't know how closely you're working with Baker Tilly on the evaluation that they're doing for the city. Is there an update on that at all from either you or Ryan?
That was yours, not ours.
Is that solely ours? Okay.
Yeah. So no updates for this council meeting.
Okay.
All right, anyone else?
All right.
Okay,
you.
thanks, Barry. Appreciate you
Barry.
being here.
Thank you.
All right, Harbor Authority meets tomorrow for the first time in a long time. It'll be at the township. It's at 5 o'clock. You can join by Zoom if anybody wanted to join that, but that's tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Zoning Board of Appeals, anybody here for that? Historic District.
Our
Russ?
next meeting is scheduled on Thursday, February 1st.
Great. Now on to planning.
Yeah, like Lauren mentioned, if you can watch the last week's meeting, it was really informative. In addition to kind of teeing up experiences from Charlevoix and East Bay.
Yeah, East Bay Township.
Township, especially around caps. The commission deliberated on the ordinances that will come to city council. I think if all goes according to plan, we'll probably vote on the police power. You know, we don't approve them, but vote to recommend them to council. And a really good discussion, I thought, among the planning commissioners of the various things that we hope that the city will pass to curb some of the nuisances. So it is worth your time. You can kind of fast forward in bits.
Just do your dishes while you're doing it. That's
That's
what I did. No, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? All right, we'll move on then to short-term rental. Obviously, we'll be changing some of these items coming up, just so you know. So on to Parks and Public Works Committee, Helen?
I will be getting into that on the item 15D about the 5-year plan. We're happy to talk about that there. And also we meet tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
Okay. Any questions? All right, moving on to the Trail Study Committee. Scott's not here tonight. And then the Ad hoc Recycling Committee, also something we'll address at the workshop. That will be something that will be off our agenda going forward. We don't have any requests for payment. On to item 12, approval of accounts payable. If I could have a motion to approve that.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve accounts payable in the amount of $320,206.58.
Do I have
I'll
a second?
second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right, roll call.
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Dean's excused, Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. On to introduction of ordinances, none at this time, no unfinished business. So we're on to the new business. 15A, improvements in the right of way. And this will be Ryan Cummins. Page 27, if you're following along.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Council. So at your workshop meeting, we kind of discussed the product of a few different meetings that you had throughout the last several months related to installing certain items within your right-of-ways within the city. So before you this evening is an ordinance that kind of updates your current street ordinance to kind of outline an application process for folks to follow, and then it refers folks to a formal policy that you're adopting as far as which items would potentially be permitted, and then which items would be prohibited. And it also outlines a process where folks have installed things prior to this ordinance passing. There's some considerations that you could make on whether or not to approve a prohibited item. So that's the quick of it, as you know. Happy to answer any more detailed questions since that maybe have come up since your last meeting.
Okay. Should we start with a motion? It is on page 27. We'll start with the motion, then we can have question and answer after that.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
motion to approve ordinance number 240122-A and permitting for installations in city streets policy to allow for limited resident improvements to the public right of way with approval of the city.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion at this time?
Yeah, Madam
Russ.
Mayor. So just for, and we had a pretty good conversation at the workshop on this. So just to make sure I'm understanding this clearly, I love the fact that we're getting some rules in place for this. This has been something the city has struggled with for a number of years. What is still not 100% clear to me is we have, at least as an example, 2 properties down on Simonson Drive, which I think maybe got this whole conversation started,
Mhm.
or at least got it kicked off. So in those situations where you have hardscape that's actually on substantial part of the city property right of way, are those property owners going to be compelled to apply to keep what they have in the public right of way? Is that the process, or are they going to be grandfathered in, or what exactly will be the process? And I just think of those 2, but I'm sure there's more around town.
Right, so in situations where we become aware of an issue of something being installed without a permit, like in that case, then they'll be, notified that they would need to apply. So in that case, if you pass this tonight, those 2 property owners are going to have to apply to leave the items, or for whatever items they want to remain within your right of way. And if there are items that are permitted, staff can view that, or review that, and potentially permit it. If there are items that are on the kind of prohibited list, then that's something that we would bring to you as a council. And then the ordinance language allows you to essentially consider kind of maybe grandfathering in something that's already been installed. Doesn't mean that you have to. It also doesn't mean that if something was maybe perhaps permitted and staff has some concerns with it, that we wouldn't necessarily bring it to the council for your review and decision as well. The long and short of it is, staff doesn't plan on like driving around and checking every hardscape within the right of way to see if it's been permitted in the past. We'll probably handle them on a case by case basis, with the knowledge that obviously if somebody wants to install something going forward, that we'll make sure that they're notified of this procedure.
And just to clarify, if they get the application, it comes before city council and we decide whether we will allow it, grandfather it, or whatever. And let's just say we're okay with it now, but 2 years from now, we need to put some parking there. We're allowed, as far as this ordinance is concerned, to be able to say at any time, the city can remove those.
Exactly right. So.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Mayor, just to continue my line of questioning. So prohibited features, which are pretty clearly laid out here. There's another number of examples in town where people have put, and I don't know what defines a boulder as opposed to a stone necessarily. However, have put stones in the public right of way for decorative, but actually to keep people off of, to keep people from parking there. So, and I think about some people will put in those small poles as to, for guide for snow plows. So put those up too. There's different things. People get very creative about trying to keep people off of public right of way. So if they're not particularly specifically prohibited and they're not specifically permitted, they kind of fall in that gray area. What's going to be the city's position on, will those be removed without notice? What's kind of going to be the process?
Well, the process is, if they want to install something and it's not part of that kind of de minimis list that's within the ordinance, like, mulch or grass clippings or flowers or something
Right.
along those lines, that they will need to apply. And then the policy is kind of a catch-all item on number 10, that installations that pose an unreasonable risk of harm to motorists and pedestrians by impeding clear line of sight as determined by the council or city engineer. That's an option that we had to look at. There's a whole list of, so on section 2H, that kind of lays out the factors that have to be evaluated for any particular installation. And so myself, the city engineer, the DPW superintendent will be reviewing these on a case by case basis. If it's something that we have some concerns with, or that we think is a bigger, decision to be made, that we will bring it to the council. And I suspect if folks are applying to install things that even may be, permitted just for the purpose of, prohibiting people from parking on their property, that's something that we'll bring to you to make some decisions on.
Thank you. Mayor, last question, just since Scott Herbert's here, what's DPW's thought on this? Is this going to be helpful for your work? Is this going to be beneficial?
Yeah, the way that this is written out is very thoughtful. And so I just see it as a tool that, if we need to use it, we'll use it. We're not necessarily going to be, out there, making a list of known issues, but, as things come up, like I think of one, we rebuilt Taylor Tack and East and West Street, and there's some clear sightline distances that need to be corrected. So it kind of just gives us something, if we try to, maybe initially go and talk to the resident and say, do a verbal, at first, it just gives us a little more backbone behind it, versus just like, we believe that this is because that'll get challenged, right? And so this is just something for us to fall back on too.
Okay, so you see this as a plus.
Oh, yeah, big
Yeah,
time.
great. Thank you.
All right, is there anything else?
Thank you, Russ, for that question on Scott's opinion. That's valuable. Thank you.
All right, at this point, we do have a motion and a second. If we could have the clerk please call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Dean's excused, Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
White,
Yes.
motion carries.
Great. All right, on to item 15B, zoning amendments to the waterfront. This is on page 34. And this will be Ryan as well.
All right, well, thank you, Madam Mayor, once again. And another project that your planning commission has been hard at work on for several months, as we discussed at your workshop meeting. A lot of public engagement, a lot of study of your Water Street North, Water Street South, and resort zoning districts, taking a look at properties that may be ripe for development, and then having several meetings to kind of discuss some potential options to really kind of implement, the master plan, the community's desires for what it would like to see as far as waterfront development. So David Jurasik is actually on this evening. So I know there weren't really questions at your workshop, which is totally fine, but another opportunity here. We have David's planner expertise as our consulting planner in case you have any last minute questions as well. Otherwise, I think you kind of know where it's at. So.
Okay, so at this point, I would like to have a motion. Again, the sample motion is on page 34 and we can have discussion after.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
a motion to adopt ordinance number 240122-B to amend Title 15, Chapter 154 of the Code of the City of Saugatuck to create the C-2 Downtown Waterfront Preservation Zoning District. Amend various sections of the ordinance to reflect the implementation recommendations of the City of Saugatuck Waterfront Development Project, and to amend the official zoning map to rezone certain lands currently zoned C-2 Water Street South and C-1 Water Street North to the new C-2 Waterfront Preservation Zoning District.
Second.
All right, so a motion by White, second by Baldwin. So discussion at this point.
Yes,
Yeah,
Madam
go
Mayor.
ahead, Brad.
I'm not sure if Mr. Jurasik or Ryan are able to answer this question. I don't recall from my time on the planning commission, but there's discussion about some properties on Culver that might be carved out of the district. And I've had a couple of the residents or business owners down there ask me what the timeline is or plan is for that project. So I said I would ask.
Yeah, so I think, at the last planning commission meeting in December, when that kind of discussion occurred, I think the planning commission chair thought that maybe looking at that last, section there, this is kind of the light blue is what you're.
Yeah.
referring to.
Yes.
That particular block, as well, it was looking at that in conjunction with the larger project of looking at, City Center and Water Street East and some potential opportunities to combine some more zoning districts. So he thought that might be a goal for the planning commission to tackle this year, but the planning commission hasn't yet set their goals for the year. They had with the busy last meeting, I didn't make them go through goal setting, but we will have to soon. So potentially this year, that might be a larger project.
So it's on the 24 roadmap, in other words.
It's on the radar certainly
Okay,
for
thank you.
2024.
I just had a question about grandfathered properties. If something already exists, are those properties, they get to stay the way they are?
Yes, that's the short of it.
What
do
if
wanna
they
add-
sell? That was the second part of that
Yeah,
question.
so if it sells essentially the land use and any existing legal nonconformities that may exist, those things would transfer to the new owner. They run with the land, so.
So it's change of use that abandons a kind of grandfather in use rather than selling it or change of ownership.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
Oh.
Could you explain that a little bit? if they sell their property, are they allowed to keep it as is, or do they have to conform to what the new waterfront
Nope,
district
they could
rules
sell
are?
it- They can sell as is with the existing use, even if it's non-conforming. Even if the property doesn't meet certain dimensional requirements with today's zoning requirements, it can continue on at the point that the structures are maybe expanded or the use is changing, or a portion of the structure is removed and then they want to build something new. That's going to trigger some further maybe site plan reviews or special land use approvals, depending on what they're looking to change it to. The one unique piece that we did kind of add in here at the end, and I'll let maybe Dave kind of walk you through this a little bit, was taking into account a situation where we maybe have a change in use that doesn't involve site improvements, and kind of handling those in a little bit of a different way. You want to kind of summarize that, Dave? And
Yes, thanks, Ryan. Also, I wanted to follow up on one thing, just on the non-conforming use discussion. I watched the video from last week, and I think there's one example about a B&B changing to a single-family residence, or essentially one non-conforming use to another. And I did want to mention there is a provision in the zoning ordinance for the substitution of non-conforming uses. So the ZBA could consider the change of one non-conforming use to another with the substitution provision in the zoning ordinance. So that's just one other option that I don't think we've discussed yet. The other change well, a more recent change, I think probably one of our last changes to this draft at the Planning Commission level was our idea going into this project was that we were really going to rely on the special land use process for change of use to any new use, or for any sort of construction, expansion of a building or site work. We were really going to rely heavily on special land use for most, if not all, cases where you're changing use. However, we added in a provision so that if you change from one existing use to another that does not involve a significant exterior change. So a significant exterior change could be the expansion of square footage of a building, or grading, parking, or outdoor storage. So if you're just changing one use to another, we listed businesses such as art galleries, offices, apartments, personal service establishments, and retail stores. So if you're just changing from one use to one of those without a significant exterior change, it's simply a permitted use. And that was based off of public comment, and we felt that was a fair provision to add in, and to make it a little easier just for someone to reuse a building without having to jump through the hoops of a special land use process. Because the intent of that special land use process was to really ensure that the exterior changes of a site in a building were properly planned and done in a sensitive manner. So we were less concerned about change of use to these 5 land uses when there was no significant exterior change to the site.
Anybody else have any questions or comments before we take a vote? All right, if the clerk could please call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Dean's excused, Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
Staton,
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much to the Planning Commission. It was a lot of work, and to all those involved, Dave, Ryan, everyone. This was a huge task to take on, and you guys did it. And we thank you for all of the efforts on, the public comment portions, the public meetings that were held, town hall meetings. It was great. I think everybody had an opportunity to hear why we were doing it. What was the intent of this? And so I think it was really great. All right, moving on to item 15C, fee schedule update, right-of-way permit fee. That's on page 54.
all right, well, this, Madam Mayor, relates to the new, or the ordinance amendments to your street ordinance and improvements in the right of way. This essentially establishes an application fee to recoup some of the costs related to reviewing those. And then, as we discussed at your last meeting, the tree removal permit, that there wasn't a previous application and permit fee, even though there was a requirement to obtain a permit, that's been in your ordinance for quite some time. And, you were very wise at your last meeting, wanted to encourage, didn't want to discourage any new tree, from being planted. And so you accounted for that and the suggestion of having that fee be lower than the tree removal, application. So.
Okay. If we could have a motion and then we'll have discussion.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Motion to approve resolution number 240122-A to update the city schedule of fees to add right-of-way and tree permit fees.
A second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I'm in support of the fees. I just want to understand the process, especially for the new right-of-way. It seems to be pretty clear with the ordinance that we passed this evening. So the fees are associated with the expense of the city staff to process that and review, et cetera. Makes total sense. The tree permits, since we have Mr. Herbert here this evening, he's our tree guy. I'm just trying to get a better handle on, we try to encourage people to put in a new tree as opposed to removing a tree, but these are all public right-of-way trees. So I just want to understand the process. If I, for instance, the tree in front of my house, if I decide to remove it, it's gonna be $100 fee. But then how does the city, do I have to actually fill out, and I'm not gonna remove my tree because I love it, it's a great tree. But what is the process if I remove a tree? Does the city then work with me to, replace it with an indigenous species? Is there a list of trees that I can choose from? Just kind of understand the process.
Kind of weigh in on that a little bit. Yeah, we're in the process of creating an approved street tree list because this recently became an issue in the past couple of years. There are a lot of tree species that are we try to stick with native. Are they salt tolerant? Can they withstand root compaction and root damage if we're replacing concrete? All of those types of things. There's I kind of debated with a resident one time because we were gifted a new tree in the right of way. I find it to be inappropriate, but so again, this is a nice tool to have to make it a little more formal as to like, these are approved, these are not approved. And a lot of municipalities already have these in place. I look at the city of Grand Haven's list of approved street trees and it's pretty comprehensive. So we already have a lot that we can go off of.
And will this go through Parks and Public Works then as far as that permitting process, or will that happen administratively?
Tree permits are handled administratively unless there's somebody disagrees with the decision that's made, then there's an appeals process that would go through the Parks and Public Works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which was formerly the tree board.
Right.
Yes.
So basically, if they were denied a tree removal permit and they insisted on it, they could appeal that decision to the tree board, which that responsibility is now absorbed by the PPW.
Which would
committee.
then bring it to council.
Which is in line. It's
No, that's,
but important because that
at least we
also-
know.
Yeah, exactly. It keeps us in compliance with our Tree City USA status too. So
Great.
formality.
Great.
Scott, just curious, when you guys remove a tree, do you also drill out the root?
We do. We
Okay.
grind them down, usually
Right.
18 inches or more, just so that we can replant.
Okay, just curious. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And then quick question, how, I have this wonderful black walnut in my front yard that is extremely old and both the bane and delight of my existence. I love this thing, but it's terrible.
And valuable.
It's very valuable, but at the same time, I understand it's probably towards the end of its lifespan. I want to keep it going. I'm looking at hiring like an arborist to try to take care of that. It's between the sidewalk and the road. If he is, needing to clean it up or remove parts of it, to kind of clean it up, is that something I would need to get permission to do from the city, or is that,
Yeah.
what does that look
your,
like?
Your step one would probably be to get a hold of me. And,
Okay.
I just went around FY last week and did a tree risk assessment.
Okay.
With the city's arborist. His name is Ed Dowd, by the way. I've been working with him for a lot of years.
Good talk to
And
Ed.
so we can take a look at the tree and just kind of do like a walking, talking session.
That'd be great.
But in certain circumstances, if the tree poses a risk, if there's dead limbs and it needs to be deadheaded, that may be, a cost that the city would be willing to take on.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to safety, where we don't often, like, for example, just since we're talking about it, a lot of times we get someone that wants to remove a tree because, well, it's messy, right? It drops too many leaves or, that type of thing. It's like, well, we really need more to protect our urban forest program a little bit better than that. We need some sort of reason beyond just that it's messy to remove the tree. But it sounds like in your case, if the tree's in decline, then we'd be happy to take a look at it.
I want to keep it. It's awesome, but
Right.
it is a mess, but.
But a
it's
hazard proof
wonderful.
maybe or something.
All right,
We
anything
don't
else?
condemn trees very easily, especially the specimen trees out
Right.
there.
Any other questions or comments? All right, if the clerk could call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Dean's excused, Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, we are now on to item 15D, Parks and Rec 5-year plan. And at this time, I would like to have a motion to go into the public hearing for the Parks and Rec 5-year plan for the city of Saugatuck.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion for a public hearing for the 5-year Park and Recreation Plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, that's any discussion on it before we go into the public hearing? And then I need a roll call then.
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Dean, Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
All right, I'd like to call to order the public hearing for the Parks and Rec 5-year plan for the city of Saugatuck. At this time, I could have Helen tee this up for us and let us know what this is all about as far as our 5-year plan for Parks and Rec in the city of Saugatuck.
Yes, thank you. So the park, we have a steering committee, for every 5 years. Each municipality needs to create a 5-year Parks and Rec plan. What this enables us to do, most importantly, is qualify for grants. If you want to get a grant for anything in your property, it has to be listed in there. And that's the reason to have like a nice wish list available or items that you might, possibly like to see. And so it's a very comprehensive plan. We partnered with our sister municipalities, Douglas and the township and the school district, and created this together. Last 5-year, the last plan 5 years ago, Saugatuck City went alone while they partnered together. I don't know why that happened, but we chose to get in on the bandwagon with them, and it was a wonderful opportunity to really work with the other municipalities and really spend some time. It's an easy thing that you would think would be easy, but it's just you forget where they're at with their different parks and offerings. So it was a wonderful opportunity for our steering committee. Been at it for at least a year, a lot of public input. We've had open sessions. I mean, this is at the end of a 30-day public review process that we've had this posted now. And just a formality to finally get this passed, and without it being passed, we would not be able to qualify for grants. So I want to say that.
Okay, there will be time for council comments towards the end, but at this time, I would like any supporting comments. Jamie, do you know if we've had any letters, first of all, in support of the 5-year plan?
None.
None? Anyone in the room like to speak in support of the 5-year plan? Anyone online like to speak in support at this time for the 5-year plan? All right, we will move on to opposing comments. Jamie, any letters opposing the 5-year plan?
None.
None? Anyone in the room opposed to the 5-year plan want to speak? Anyone online wish to speak opposing the 5-year plan? All right. Anyone want to speak in general comments, either way, in the room or online? All right, we will move on to public comment portion. I need to close that portion. So I am now closing the public comment portion for the 5-year plan. And now on to council comments. So if anyone wants to speak, we'll just go with that. So if anybody has anything to say, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say what I said in the workshop, that I thought this is an incredibly thoughtful, comprehensive plan, and, commend the committee for working with it as well as the other municipalities. I think, especially in terms of getting grants, but also just providing great information and what we value is terrific. So good work.
I'd like to also echo what you just said, Holly. I really want to thank everybody that worked hard on this, the township, the city of Douglas, and the city of Saugatuck. They had a lot of great open meetings. They were fun to go to. I went to a couple of them. and very informative. And I think we can learn from each other. And I'm glad that we did this project together.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, incredibly well put together report. Really, really enjoyed the detail that was presented in here, as a, community that people love to visit and work or live in. It's a very important thing to us. I do have one question surrounding the intended use of this document. I understand that it is intended to be used to shop for grants and everything and supporting evidence for that. I'm wondering, is it kind of our potential, because there's some wording in there that says, it's possible future plans, I'm wondering, is it, the parks as a process and a procedure, is it the Parks and Rec Committee's recommendation to council that these are some things we'd like to pursue? Or is it more intended to be used as council's mandate to the staff to say, accomplish these specific goals, to the best of our ability, is my question
yeah.
there.
I would say that the goal is to keep it, keep you updated on what is out there in inventory, to keep you updated as to what is out there, some possibilities. And then it's really a guideline for, it's not a mandate by any stretch to
Okay.
have, start driving these policies or even, some of the things that I looked at where I saw, some cost estimates or whatever that was done by the consultants. And that could be wildly off just depending on what you decide to do.
Okay.
So, yeah, and the one thing I did neglect to say is that we do have John online, and he's raising his hand right now. From our very capable consultants at Viridis, they did a wonderful job, and I definitely wanted to give them a shout out. I know I did at the workshop, and it does look like he wants to speak at this time, so I would, if possible.
Am
Yeah,
I?
that's on you.
Yeah, we are past the point of public comment, but because he is a consultant that worked with this group, I will allow it. So John, feel free.
Madam Mayor, you may want to.
We can keep going.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can
I'm
keep
great.
going with council comments.
I would love
Yeah.
to hear from John, and I
Sure.
would like the opportunity to speak after that.
Yeah, please.
So, great.
Okay. So John, if you want to go ahead and address any of the things that are being spoke about right now as far as council comments, you might have some answers to some of the questions that have been posed.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it. My name is John. I'm with Viridis Design Group, and I worked on the plan with the committee. And I just wanted to mention, just based on the last question, that the document is basically just a planning document. And just because something is in there, it doesn't mean you have to do it. It's essentially just listing potential things that you might like to do. And therefore, if you are interested in going after DNR grant monies, then it needs to be in the plan. And so by having it in there, you kind of cover all your bases, because if you decide to go after a project and it's not in the plan, then the DNR kind of gets a little weird about it and they'll ask you questions and you might not score very well. And it's also a living document. It can be amended at any time as well. So if you decide something that's in there now that a different opportunity comes along and you want to make it something else, you can certainly amend it and change it, and vice versa. So I just wanted to just mention that.
That's good information, John. Thank you. Does that answer your question, Logan?
Yeah, and I think that's really important for me to know. I appreciate that,
Yeah.
because it definitely colors how some things that I noticed about the plan. And I share the concern that we heard earlier in the evening a little bit about specifically the airport property, being one of the largest, pieces of land and assets that we have as a city, and just making sure that we weren't committing that land. I understand that it's opening the door for that to be and possibly bolstering the opportunity to, consider using that land in that capacity, which is great. Very excited about that, but I just would want to make sure that that's not the final word on how that land's being used. So I also I do question a little bit, classifying it as a park currently, if that's kind of being broken out here, because I don't know that we've really decided that that is a park that's accessible. We had talked a little bit at the workshop about it being, accessible to the public because it's, owned by the public. I think that is a tough way to look at city assets. You know, I don't think that everything that belongs to the public is necessarily usable by the public. We can't take a snow plow out for a ride, you know, if we feel like it. So,
Yeah.
well, you know, so
Can't try
just,
it.
you know, I'm excited about the plan. Would love to consider that as a future use and just wanted to clarify that. So
Great.
that's it.
Okay, Logan, thank
Appreciate it.
you. Anyone else?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, a couple of things that struck me. One is on page 80, the population growth, it really jumped out at me is that the city of Sagatuck dropped 18.7% in population from 2010 to 2020. Not a good trend for us. And not that that is, you know, that's just part of the report here. There's a lot of other information. We're a very economically successful community, but population wise, we're struggling. You know, that just always reminds me that we have to be very thoughtful and we have to be procedurally oriented around various asset management. And that brings up the airport property. I was wondering if the clerk could bring up let me get the page number here. Page 108 first, please. Did you get there? So the Old Sagatuck Airport is classified as an see if I get my acronyms right, an NRPA natural resource area. It is not technically classified as that. That's an assignment that I'm not sure how that was made. What troubles me about this is that the property itself is not a park, as has been mentioned by several, and it is not publicly accessible at this point. It even says zero accessibility at the bottom. I wonder how this got to this point because it's not an official park in our official inventory. So I'm just wondering how it got to this level of being added as a park.
I think Helen could answer that.
Yeah.
So first of all, this has been going on for a year. We've had a lot of public comment open. This was up for public review and I want to start by saying that. I don't know that it's necessarily, and also right now with the airport property, you know, that's part of the city council mandate is to pursue opening up the trails that are already existing. And we are going down that road and that's definitely, it's a mandate that we've come to as a council and we're headed down that road. I don't see it as important to parse these. Again, it's a living document. If you guys decide, because it won't be me, to sell it to Perigo for a warehouse, which is, I know is a suggestion by several people, some people, then that can be done anytime. Nothing stops it. And as far as the decrease in population related to the airport property, I'm not sure where that's headed. Decrease in population is caused the influx of short-term rental properties, and maybe you could focus your attention more on that, is my suggestion.
Madam Mayor, if I may, to help Mr. Gardner, if I can.
Yeah.
So I think he had a very pointed question, right? Like your question was, what page are you on?
108 and now 168 and 169.
Right. So you're wondering how did the city of Sagatuck and their consultants working with the township?
And if you look at page 93, it's another
Yes,
great example of
Yeah,
this. is
yeah,
that-
I think you have a very pointed question and I'm going to try to help you out if I can. So how did they get this designation?
As a natural resource area? Is that,
So we,
So I'm just trying to follow the logic of how it got here, and I appreciate where Councilmember Baldwin said there's been a lot of public conversation. I literally just saw this
Yes,
report like the
sir.
council members last Tuesday before the
It's
workshop.
been out, it's been advertised for
yes, sir.
30 days for
Madam
public
Mayor.
review.
Yeah, go
And
ahead.
don't stop work just because you started paying
I'm trying to
attention
help.
5 minutes ago.
I'm trying to help this conversation out. if
I think he's
may.
trying to answer
Yeah.
just that
Um,
specific question.
So we did the environmental assessment
Right.
with Fleece and Vanderbrink. And then we also worked with the Outdoor Discovery Center. And I think that's probably how they landed on how they could claim this property is what you're pointing out as being
Natural
I
resource
guess my,
area.
Natural resource
yeah,
area.
my question is, it's an asset of the city. It's been labeled a natural resource area within the city. Is there more to it than that? I mean, I know if we didn't include it in this 5-year plan, we couldn't apply for
That'd
any
be
grants or
for it, yeah.
anything like that.
And,
So
and I have to mention it.
that's what I understood.
And it's historically been in the other 5-year plans too. It's just that certain individuals have decided to make it a flashpoint for some reason. It's always been included in the 5-year plan.
Yeah.
This is not new.
Yeah,
The
The
discussion.
past several
Yes,
5-year plans?
Yes.
Okay.
They've had
So,
the airport property.
Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
So I do understand Mr. Gardner's point, like, so this is just a plan to allow the city to apply for new grants, right? But how did we land on the fact that this is a natural resource area? How do we even get there with the city property? And I think the answer is through your evaluation with the Fleece and Vanderbrink and then Outdoor Discovery Center and
In motions in front of council.
So John McCann also has his hand raised. If he might be wanting to answer this a little bit more, so it's clearer to Councilmember Gardner. John?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the category. It's the natural resource area is just based on the fact that it's a city-owned vacant parcel that is available. And based on the existing site features, it has a high ecological quality, high quality habitat. And part of the rec plan is reviewing those things as well. So we're reviewing parks, reviewing nature areas, natural resource areas. It's currently being used as a recreational facility. You know, people kind of just go and use it as they wish, even though I know it's technically not open to the public. So I think we would be remiss if we did not include it in the report, because generally in these types of report planning documents, we do include all properties owned by a city or a township, because you never know, they could be converted into a park, especially if it's a natural resource area such as this. And going back to my earlier comments before, that it is just a planning document, and if you choose to do something different with it, you're totally free to do that. Just because it's in here doesn't mean it has to be a park. And so the natural resource area category is just given to it based on its current site features versus, say, like a mini park or like a community park, because it's certainly not that now. It could be in the future, but it's not that now. So that's why that has that classification.
All right, John,
Hopefully
thank you.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I appreciate it so much, John, for the clarification on that. Any other comments?
I just want to be clear. This doesn't mean that this cements where this property is going to be. You know, it just includes it in our natural resource areas as we apply for an overall grant for all of our parks. So
Correct.
there's no, I think there might have been some worry that this was some kind of cement in our program of where we're going, but it's not. It's just part of our grant writing process here. So
Yeah, and
I'm happy with that answer.
yeah, Madam Mayor, thank you for all the comments. And this report's wonderful. I mean, it's well done. It's well thought out. I just I'm still struggling with this because if I look at Councilmember Baldwin, let me finish.
I didn't say anything. Get your hand up at me though.
168, page 169, actually. And I really struggled bringing this up because I do not want to be viewed as being a negative on this. I just want to make sure that, and again, some of the points that are being made, I agree with, is that the airport property itself, and if you look at page 168 or 169 for that matter, project, develop cross-country trails for use by school district, nature trails, parking benches, waste receptacles. Has some dollar assignments, which Mr. McCann explained are for planning only. However, and I think the council should be actively looking at this property from an asset standpoint and not just a park. So I would really look for the council to, you know, make maybe this, in my opinion, a little bit of a cart before the horse. We should be evaluating it for best use for the community. That could include the value of it for sale, or maybe, you know, conveyance to the township, whatever that might be. So I just want to make that point.
All right.
Yeah,
I
and-
personally feel, if I could just say a few things, that, you know, just by having this in the 5-year plan, it doesn't preclude us from being able to do anything with this property. It's still, you know, it's there, it's an asset, and we have an opportunity in the future to change our idea of what we want to do with it. So I feel like it can be in this plan, but it also, we can change the plan. We can also talk about that at another time. Yeah.
If we're applying for a grant, right? Okay, and we get, if we get $10,000, $50,000 to develop a cross-country trail in this airport property, right? That has nothing to do, after we create that trail.
Yeah.
It still doesn't precedent what we can do with that property in the future. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And to
So,
be clear, we've also got an amphitheater in here.
And-
We've got a community
right.
center in here. None
But-
of that means that we're
but I-
forced to build one.
I also want to
Right.
ask, we're asking for grant money here.
Yeah. in case.
When they give us grant money,
Yeah.
that's not necessarily going to be, well, you have to use it in this park,
Right.
or you have to use it in this
Right.
place. As we get monies, we will vote together where we'll spend it, right?
Right.
So I'm fine with this.
All right. Is there any
Yeah.
other discussion at this time?
Yeah, just as the person who kind of originally opened up the question of like, is this what we have to do kind of thing?
Mhm.
I appreciate the clarification on that and I'm satisfied and
Good.
relaxed about that. So
Thank
thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. I
If there's
appreciate that.
nothing else,
It's really nice. It's
yeah.
a nice thing.
I assume I have to close the hearing first and then we vote on this, Jamie?
Correct.
Okay, so at this point, I would like to make a motion, if I could have someone make a motion to close the public hearing on the Parks and Rec 5-year plan.
Make a motion to close the public hearing on the Park and Rec plan, 5-year Park and Rec plan.
Do I have a
Okay.
second? All right, so I have a motion and a second.
Second.
Gardner, yes. And if this is a roll call, Jamie?
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Dean's excused, Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy,
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, and then at this point, I would like someone to make a motion to approve the Parks and Rec 5-year plan.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion.
I don't believe we have a sample motion, right?
Do we?
We do not.
Okay, so I think you can handle it though, Gregory.
Mhm. I'd like to make a motion to approve the Parks and Rec 5-year plan.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, if the clerk could call the roll.
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Dean's excused, Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you, everyone. It was a great discussion. I appreciate all the work that went into that. So moving on to item E, the AT&T project update. This isn't anything we're voting on, but for Ryan Heiss, if you could please give us an update.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, this is on page 174 of your packet. I mean, really, there's nothing new since our last conversation with council. I have made the request to AT&T to assist with painting of the dome, restoration of vegetation next to the stairway, and as well contributing to the restrooms. And so haven't heard back from them. They are still willing and able to work with us, and so that's where it's at.
Okay, any further discussion on that? All right, Ryan, thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on to item F, Arbor Day. This would be on page 176. And is this a Ryan Cummins thing? Who
I
takes this
mean,
one up?
We can,
Or is it Scott? Scott, I feel like, Scott, this is you, Arbor Day.
let's see, listed as Cyril. Yeah, Scott Herbert, yes.
Yes.
This is just a formality. It's really not that interesting. It's
How
kind of,
dare you?
it's a formality. It's for our, yeah, it's part of our Tree City USA application. We have to, every year, the DPW superintendent, generally takes a location that we removed a tree and then we replant a tree in that location. We have a ceremony. I think you've
Yeah.
been to one. Very exciting.
It's so exciting.
If we get any participation at that ceremony,
Big
it's a
crowd.
good one.
I go, I love
Let's do
it.
it. Yeah.
So, but I love it.
Great.
But it is,
Yeah.
it is a little underwhelming. So
Scott, Scott, thank you. Is there any-
This
Are
is
there
important.
any questions or comments at this time? Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve proclamation number 240122-P1 and 240122-P2 as presented.
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I know it's a little out of turn as not being a council member, but Tree City USA is actually super important to the city of Saugatuck.
Mhm.
Your urban treescape is actually outstanding, especially when you put the lights in and the trees and the effort that Scott Herbert and the DPW puts into maintaining our treescape and our urban streetscape. So I know we're selling ourselves a little short here, but this is important stuff. So that's it. That's my
Yes.
comment.
We do
This-
appreciate it.
is
Absolutely.
important.
All right, if there's no further discussion, this is also a roll call.
Anderson,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
Deeds excused, Gardner,
Yes.
Muncy.
Yes.
Stanton.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Scott. Moving on to item G, the 2024 street and lease agreements. We talked about this at the workshop as well. It's on page 179.
Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the 2024 municipal license agreement rates as presented on attachment A and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign such agreements for 2024 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. All right.
Anderson.
Yes. Any discussion on this?
Yeah, Mayor, I would just make a comment. I want to appreciate the work that the city clerk has done is to keep this document up to date with the names of the leases. It's just, we do a really good job managing our street ends, so.
Any other discussion items? All right, this is a voice vote. All those in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? All right. Motion carries. Moving on to item H, the 2024 Wicks Park boat slips. That's on page 191. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 Wicks Park boat slip rates of $2,000 for non-residents and $1,800 for residents.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Any discussion at this point? I know we did talk about these rates at the workshop. Does anybody want to make any further comments on it?
It's a good deal. I mean, go ahead and compare.
Right, right. We did make some great improvements to the docks that are there with, new boards and new cleats, and they're really great. There's no electricity out there. It's just a really great spot for those who are fortunate enough to get one of those slips. So this is also a voice vote. So all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then those opposed? All right, motion carries. And moving on to item I, this is the 2024 summer tax collection. This is on page 200. I don't know if anybody wants to explain this, but Ryan?
I can certainly read the,
Yes. Peter, would you like to explain this?
Peter.
Probably watching. the
I'll.
presentation.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah,
So I
it could
can
be a
read the
quick
description.
explanation,
This is,
sure.
this is, yeah, pro forma. So description, the attached agreement is between the city of Saugatuck and the Saugatuck Public Schools for the collection of the Saugatuck Public Schools and the Ottawa Area Intermediate School District 2024 summer tax levies at a rate of $2.75 per parcel. So this is a mandate. You don't really have many choices about it. I guess you could vote it down and we could debate it. But the sample motion is,
Right there.
anyone want to read the sample?
Go ahead, Logan.
Madam Mayor, move to authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign and enter into an agreement between the city of Saugatuck, Saugatuck Public Schools, and the OAISD for collection of the 2024 summer tax levies at a rate of $2.75 per parcel.
Do I have a second? All right. Second by Gardner. Any discussion? All right, this is also a voice vote. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed, motion carries. All right, on to item J, right-of-way sign application. This is from the Convention and Visitors Bureau. It's on page 205.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the right-of-way sign application from CVB for the dates January 29th through February 13th.
Do I?
Second.
Great. Any discussion? And
Looking forward to a fun Mardi Gras party.
yeah, absolutely. Anybody else want to make mention, it is the time of year in Saugatuck where things get a little slow. So I love that they're putting on events that keep us going, keep people coming into town, have a reason to come into town. And frankly, for all of us locals who enjoy celebrating those events that are put on in the off season, that we all enjoy getting together for.
And a quick shout out to the, Red Horse Center, which I think is the beneficiary of the event, and Fred Biltman and that group. They're a bunch of characters, and they're a lot of fun. So I don't know if you haven't had the chance to see that particular ensemble. I don't know what the correct word. I know they have a lot of
The Great Lakes
vocabulary that
Brass
they
Band,
use to like describe their
Their
activities.
entrance, yeah,
But it is quite something to behold. So I would encourage everybody to check that out.
good. All right, this is also a voice vote. All those in favor say yes.
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 Yes. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, on to public comment on anything you would like to comment on. Anyone in the room? Anyone online who would like to make a comment? There's a lot more people online than in the room, so no one? All right, on to council comments then. Logan, would you mind starting? Or I can go to Holly. Hold on, I can go to Holly.
No, there's a lot of great work that a lot of people have been working on that was presented and that we've reviewed tonight, and just it's really cool to see these coordinated efforts occurring, not only with the expediency that one could only hope for from government, but also with the quality with which it was done. So a particular congratulations to the waterfront zoning group and the parks group. Very nice. It's exciting to be kind of coming in right at the finish line, just to say, all the stuff we've gotten done. So I appreciate that. So thank you.
Great,
Thank you to those
Logan,
groups.
thank you. Gregory?
Yeah, I'll repeat that. And I want to thank the Planning Commission and everybody, and also our citizens who took part in all of these great surveys and open face and talking to us and coming to these meetings. It's been a great process, and it's been a work through everybody, not just our committees, but our community too, that has involved themselves in the whole process. And I feel like now that we've moved on from the waterfront, it's like, whew, and now I can't wait till STR. Then I can really go when we can move on. But they've been some really big projects that I've been very proud to serve on council as we go through. I wanted to mention that. And so thank you to everybody who's taken part of that, and including our residents. Also, new bakery. I teased everybody on Wednesday at our workshop, and I didn't tell anybody where it was going to be, but she made her announcement. There'll be a new bakery next to Wicks Park Bar and Grill. It'll be called Erica June Baking Company. And we're excited to have another new business in Saugatuck, and another bakery. So we've got Retro Bakery that'll be opening up on Blue Star Highway, and another bakery here. I hear everybody in town complain that we don't have a bakery. Now we got two of them, guys. So make sure you go out and support them.
Great. Helen?
I want to thank the council for adoption of the 5-year park plan. It was a lot of work, and again, by a lot of volunteers that, not to mention our very capable consultants. And so it was very rewarding to see that finally, to finally get that pulled through. I want to thank planning again for all their hard work on the waterfront. Big deal to get that squared away, and it's not lost on me. And once again, I mean, we just have, for a small town, I mean, we talked about that 860 residents. I think I counted one time when we look at our committees and the places that we ask people to serve, it's 80 positions that are unpaid, and a lot of people trying to do a lot of good work. And I appreciate the people that are supportive of those efforts. And I want to say thank you to you guys tonight for that. Thank you.
Russ?
Yes, thank you. That recreation plan has come a long way from when we originally wrote it back in I forget what year it was. I was part of the group that wrote the original plan. The Tri-Community Recreation Plan has come a long, long way. It's grown quite a bit. I'm proud to support it. I just want to, I just need to repeat that. My questions are not meant to be personally judgmental of the report. Is to understand what the ramifications are of adopting that report and what commitments that makes for the city. I still firmly believe that the airport property needs review at a higher level, at a council and a city level, to determine best use. So I'm very
Hal?
proud to support it. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing that really struck me in the parks report that has nothing to do with the parks, talks about income levels in the tri-communities and poverty levels. So we have the highest, Saugatuck City has the highest median household income level. And we have appreciably the highest poverty level. Our poverty level is 8% versus 3.2% in the tri-community, 1.3 for the township and 7.8 for Douglas. So it'd be interesting to kind of dig into that. And if Kathy's still on the line, she's not. Why the poverty levels are so high in Saugatuck and Douglas, and are we doing as much as we can to meet the needs of those people? So I'll try to dig in and see what I can learn, but that's made me sad. So.
All right. All right, at this point, I would take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Now, second,
All right, all those in favor say yes.
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 All right, opposed? Thanks, everyone.